Okay, so I'd love to introduce Rick from Miva. For those that aren't familiar, Miva is an e-commerce platform. We thought it would be really, really interesting to get some insight from folks on the inside of innovating into e-commerce from the ground up, where we get to take technology and build upon it and customize it and make it really individualized business by business. Miva really has the insight on a whole other set of metrics and knowledge, and they've been in the industry. Well, you'll hear a little bit more. They're certainly as much veterans as anyone else that you're going to find in e-commerce, and so really a wealth of information. And Rick is an avid sailor and scuba diver, and once climbed the great Mount Kilimanjaro. So better than me.
I climbed half of Kilimanjaro, and then I had my ass properly handed to me, and I climbed back down Kilimanjaro. Well, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I'll tell you a quick story. So Kilimanjaro is the easiest of the 7 tallest peaks in the world per continent to climb. So if you're into marketing, you're like, wow, I can do that. And they tell you that on the website, so it's the easiest. It's just a long walk. You can do it, 5-day walk. Then you get there, and as I'm getting there and talking to the guides, they say, well, what percentage actually summit? I say, well, 30. And I get this puzzled look on my face, and I'm like, so 70% don't? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I wonder which group I'll fall into. Well, 2 days in, I figured that out. So, but now I'm back here talking to you. So Robert, thank you for setting up this event. Thank you all for being here. Because of the fonts we chose to use, I'm using my own laptop, so I have a human clicker for me, so thank you, Mr. Human Clicker. So I'm going to talk about what I see as an interesting dilemma in the world of e-commerce, which is collecting money online these days is pretty easy. If you use PayPal, Stripe, those things insert a little bit of JavaScript or insert a link, and you can collect money. But actually running an online business is complex. And there's 3 different groups of online sellers that we routinely run into. And I'm going to talk through those 3 and talk about how, depending on which group you're in, your needs are very different. And what you're trying to do online is very different. So the first category is someone who's brand new to the internet. They effectively have a dream. They have no idea yet if they're going to be capable of selling this product or not. And let's go to the next slide. So this is an example. This is a friend of mine's store who I helped build. He makes tinctures. I don't really understand what he makes, but he collects herbs, the legal kinds, and puts them in these little jars with tinctures in them. And before Christmas, he said, I need to set up an e-commerce website. And I determined it was easier for me to do it for him in like an hour than it was for me to try to teach him technology because he doesn't open his emails. And so the things that he's trying to figure out, go ahead to the next slide, is if he's going to succeed or not ultimately. And this is 8 out of 10 of these of new online businesses fail in the first 18 months. In a sense, that's sad, but really, go to the next slide, you'll see that they're trying to solve a specific set of questions. Do they have a product people want? Can they get in front of people to actually sell it? And then if so, can they replicate that traffic? Now, how many of you in here would fall into this category of e-commerce seller? Okay, so not too many. That's not a bad place to be. I mean, I'm sure you'd like to know if your success is guaranteed or not, but this is how innovation happens. You test new ideas, and your needs for an e-commerce platform are very, very different than the next 2 groups. The second group is what I'll call an established business with a proven business model who may need to expand online. So this is a company we work with called GHP Group. They sell heaters. They primarily sell through Home Depot. And they had 2 specific needs. They needed to make information available to Home Depot reps because Home Depot, you can't train 50,000 Home Depot reps around the world to know about their heaters. So the information needed to be readily available in store to the Home Depot reps, and they wanted to be able to go to direct to consumer to learn more about their consumers. This is another company we worked with called Crown Automotives. How many of you like Jeeps? I like Jeeps. It's been a weird thing. I've liked Jeeps my whole life. I've had 4 of them. If you have an old Jeep or you want to restore an old Jeep, Mopar doesn't make those parts, especially the body parts. These guys do. And so they have a very complex multi-warehouse, multi-country distribution system, mostly selling through dealers. In fact, I think their website's exclusively through dealers. So they're a B2B business portal, And they wanted to use e-commerce to really systematize their ability for their resellers to order stuff, know where the inventory was, and get and predict when it's going to come in. Let's go to the next slide. It's another company called the Paper Store. They're a chain of essentially a Hallmark competitor up in New England. And they have 40 sites, I think 40 physical sites. And when they wanted to expand online, they knew it had to be properly omni-channel. They knew that if someone went to their website and wanted to see if this, I don't shop at Hallmark stores, so excuse me for not having a great example of what they sell, but this thing that would not be in my house is available at this store in Salem, New Hampshire, or Salem, Mass. You'd go be able to look that up and get it, or just order it and have it shipped directly to you. And then the third group of people, actually real quick before I go to the third group, how many of you fall into that? Established businesses who are looking to expand online. Okay, so a few of you. And then the third group of people are people who've been selling online really since sort of the dawn of the internet. I'd say anyone who's been selling online since before 2005. Established online sellers who are using and staying at the cutting edge of the internet. So Sign Warehouse, $25 million a year online business or online-offline business, started as a catalog company in the 80s. 60% of his business is through his distributors via the catalog business still, and then the other 40% is directly online. Cali Bamboo is a company that does bamboo flooring. Bamboo flooring is a hot market right now. Again, selling through distributors and home decorators who need access to that, and really leveraging online business as the driving tip of the spear, or the tip of the arrow. And then ID Wholesaler, Internet Retailer 500 company, who built a $50 million a year business selling badge printers. And so, but really the front of their business is online. Now, how many of you guys have been selling online for a really long time? Okay, so it's a really mixed crowd. How many of you don't fit into any of those three categories? Okay, it's pretty even. Okay, these second two groups have very different requirements for an e-commerce platform. So the first group, the brand new merchant, what they need is ultimately something that's, or I'm sorry, if they succeed, they're going to face some certain challenges. They're going to face challenges related to order fulfillment, inventory management, and CRM, or customer relationship. So their real question is anyone going to buy my product? And they're not so concerned yet with how do I get this product out the door once they bought it. And so what's going to happen with these guys is they're going to be excited to get 10, 20, 50 orders in a month in the beginning, because they're trying to figure out if they've got a market. And so their needs are very different than the next two groups. Their needs are easy to set up, point and click, beautiful. They don't have time or the money to spend on getting the technology right. They really just want it to be easy to go. If you guys are familiar with Wix at all, Wix is a great example of it's a company that serves this group of people. Here you can see some things. I don't have a laser pointer, but Wix's copy down there really highlights what I'm talking about. Free, drag and drop, free. I think they say free 10 times. Amazon is never running on Wix. That's self-evident, right? But it's okay that these new guys build on Wix if you're doing it with an intention and a plan. Next slide. Groups 2 and 3, though, have very similar business requirements. They're applied differently, but they have similar requirements. One of them that's differentiating is site security and uptime. So if you actually have traffic and orders, things like not being hacked, not having credit cards stolen, become incredibly important. Now, no one likes to think about PCI. PCI is a very defensive move in nature. And while it's really unlikely that this is how you get fined, you could get fined up to $50,000 per card stolen. So, real quick, if someone steals 100 credit cards from you, if you don't have an extra $5 million laying around, you will be out of business, or could be out of business. Now, they have this very high punitive damage designed to beat you with a stick into compliance. So most likely they know they're not getting $5 million out of you, but they will breathe down your neck and fine you and push you into getting your act together. That also includes those things like site uptime and site downtime. You can't handle site downtime when you're doing hundreds or thousands of orders a day, because every minute, every hour you're down, your business is losing tons of real revenue that you don't get to recover. That revenue doesn't come back. And that also goes with maintenance. If you need to run an upgrade and you have to take your site offline, it's funny, even Apple, until only, I think, 4 or 5 months ago when they launched their new online store, which they built all in-house. But until they launched that a few months ago, if you guys remember, they used to take their store down to add new products to it. And so the night of an iPhone launch, there'd be this little thing, it looked like a sticky note that said, we'll be back soon. And it was so weird that the world's biggest company was taking their online store down to launch a new product. And that was because of an old architecture. And they had to reinvent their whole architecture to solve for that problem. In addition to that, groups 2 and 3 have enterprise business processes, which is really order processing, fulfillment, logistics. Goes back to what Jari was talking about earlier. 80% of these problems are business processes, you knowing how you want your business to run, but the other 20% is making sure you have the technology to tie it all together. And so it's all about how you get the order out the door, into your customer, track it, into your accounting system, and into customer service. And you need a full loop, a full cycle to explain how that works. This is sort of a visualization of what that feels like. Next one. In addition, you have enterprise teams depending on the size of your business. And so we see people get to $1 million plus in sales, often just themselves and 1 or 2 people in their warehouse or their fulfillment operations. So the owner of that business is wearing all of these hats. But we also work with Taylor Swift and other companies like that where they have a whole team of people that are covering every angle. So everything from IT and security to accounting and sales and marketing, and they all have different requirements. The director of e-commerce cares about the sort of broad scope of everything and making sure all of his people who are talking to him are happy. The director of IT cares a lot about security. If it's going to screw up, is it going to cost him a lot of time? Is he going to be babysitting this thing? The marketing people want to know how they can segment their lists and get emails out the door and do retargeting. And the salespeople want to know how they can get this data and know who to call, marketing automation stuff, lead scoring. In an enterprise e-commerce system, one more, ultimately has customized buying portals, the ability to make it so that I see a different thing than Robert sees when he comes to my site, real-time updating, personalization, and merchandise and promotions management. In addition, on the back end, you do custom reporting for executives. Who knows what a KPI is, key performance indicator? KPIs are critical to running your business at scale. If you don't have KPIs once you get over just being a real small mom and pop business, you're never going to be able to grow. It's like having a dashboard in your car. You need to be able to see the temperature of the engine, the oil gauge, your RPMs, your speed, and a few other things. So the goal of modern e-commerce is really to tie all these things together. And this is, I think, a nice little graphic that shows sort of what that would look like. So you have everything from gift certificates and coupons and shipping and CRM to warehousing and fulfillment and accounting. And those things all have to come together and sort of form this cohesive unit that spits out your daily sales. Ultimately, your e-commerce platform is a hub. It used to be a checkout flow. It used to be a content management system that took money, and it has evolved into the digital hub that runs your business. It is the center of your product data, and then that product data spits out and feeds into all these other back-end business systems. So here's some quick examples of ways this works. So Cali Bamboo, I mentioned earlier, sells flooring. They use NetSuite as their ERP. They need orders to come out of their e-commerce platform and into their ERP system. Their customer data going out from the e-commerce platform into their ERP system, but also back in if it gets updated. Shipping information gets updated from their ERP and fulfillment via NetSuite and back into their online platform. And ultimately, any customer CRM updates, so notes essentially attached to an account. This is the Crown Automotive Jeep guys. Similar setup, but specifically really with product catalog data coming from a master source. So their product catalog data is coming from their ERP system and flowing into their e-commerce platform, so they don't have to keep it in 2 places. Let's see. This is GHP Group, the guys who sell the heaters. And similar story, except they're doing it with Dynamics, Great Plains Dynamics. And in all these cases, their businesses are far bigger than their e-commerce platform. And so that's why the data has to go both directions and really be canonical at the end of the day. And this is the paper store. Their big thing, along with all the other things I mentioned, was the real-time inventory lookup. And we all know who Target is. Target has the worst real-time inventory system I've ever seen. It's always wrong. You go look at something, it tells you it's at a store down the street, you drive to that store down the street, it is not at that store down the street. You want to go to someone in a red shirt and hit them. And the thing is it's not the person in the red shirt's fault, it's that Target doesn't have their act together. Target's data is crap. The fact that Target's data is crap now feeds through a whole system. And Target's a company, I never like to shop at Walmart. I'm a Target kind of person. They've got a cool style for that level of stuff. Yet their technological implementations are horrible. And that all the way from their huge hack where they exposed everyone in America's credit card number to their inability to tell you if they have an Xbox in stock shows that they don't take their IT and data seriously. And they have just, frankly, they're going to get killed. Next one. And then Mignon Faget, which is a customer that sells, they're like the Tiffany of the South as it's been described to me, but they sell jewelry and lamps and stuff. And similar, they use Microsoft Dynamics. And ultimately, they also needed to manage all return logistics. So much like Zappos, you can just go to their website and say, oh, hey, I want to return this thing. And they use their e-commerce platform as a hub to automate that return so that they don't get the phone call or the email. And then it spits out a shipping label. You take it and drop it off at UPS. It goes straight into their CRM system. So when the label comes in, they know they can automate the refund. And what they realized just doing the math was it was cheaper for them to let anyone who wants to just return something and then deal with the exceptions than it was to do the other thing, which is have customer service reps in the way of the returns process. And these are some of the really key ways you can leverage e-commerce platforms in this day and age. So here's what these companies do well. Personalization, which we've talked about. Optimizing repeat orders, especially if you're in the B2B space. How many of you do B2B selling? Okay. So if you think about how B2B selling happened in the 80s, there might have been a fax involved or a catalog, and there was a sales rep. And that sales rep was really earning his keep when he got the customer to begin with. And we all know how that works. If you've ever known someone who sold insurance for 25 years, somewhere around 10 or 15 years in, you're not really doing a lot of selling. You're kind of playing golf and having a few lunches and making sure that they don't leave. And the truth is that the website can do that today, and it provides the business owner efficiencies today that just didn't exist before. And here's the thing. I'm a sales guy, so I'm not an anti-sales guy, building their book of business. But ultimately, if you don't take these steps in efficiency, a competitor will, and then they'll be able to undercut you because their costs will be less. That includes enhancing billing and support, personalized sales promotions, knowing your buying history, being able to customize the offers you see. And then ultimately, we've been discussing this morning, synchronizing inventory across multiple channels. So the ability to have data in one place that pushes everywhere from local brick and mortars to Amazon, eBay, Etsy, what's the new ones, Jet. They come, they go, but having your data consistent across the board is very important. So ultimately, when you're planning an e-commerce build, there's 4 things you need to consider. Graphic design, web development, project management, and QA, and systems integration. So 5 things, but systems integration is more important than QA, but QA is key. What I found, depending on the size of the customer, but really ranging in all groups, is that a lot of people think this is really a graphic design project. Some people will realize it's a graphic design and web development project. Most people don't really understand the importance of a project manager. And I will tell you, project managers are key. If you don't want to someone has to understand your vision for your project, and it has to be their job to get that vision implemented. And if you're working with an agency, or anyone, it doesn't matter if you're hiring a single person off Craigslist or Odesk, or if you're working with a worldwide marketing agency, someone, and if you can't figure out who it is, it's going to be you, is going to be doing the project management on your website build. And project management is going to be the differentiator between having a successful build and a not successful build. And then ultimately, you need to plan for your systems integrations. This is a graphic we built internally to demonstrate to our clients all the stages of what a custom website build goes through. Now, you guys do custom website builds as well? Yeah, so that look familiar to you? So when someone says, I don't understand how this project is $20,000 or $200,000, we pull up this little graph. We put hours next to each one of these buckets. So these are the hours. This is what we charge per hour. And you pick. And we understand that not everyone can afford $20,000 or even $200,000. And that's okay. We're not suggesting that. What we're suggesting is that you understand that ultimately hours and money correlate, and that you think through these things. And if you're on a budget, that's fine. That means you're gonna have to do more of these things yourself. That's okay. But you need to have a thought awareness. Otherwise, what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure and frustration. So here's what a formalized scoping process looks like. You need to know what your business rules are. Going back to what Jari said earlier, 80% of this comes down to knowing how your business is supposed to operate. How quickly do you get shipments out the door every day? What time is your shipment cutoff time? What's your return policy? What do you do in accounting? Those things need to be figured out. You need to understand what you want your website to do. If you're on a budget, have it do less. It's okay to do less. Most people just want to give you money and get their order. You don't need fancy dancing animations. And you don't need lots of features that no one is going to use. If you're on a budget, trim your scope. Ultimately, trust people who have done it before. E-commerce has become a pretty well-established process and system. And if you talk to multiple consultants who have done e-commerce successfully and they all give you the same advice, I strongly recommend you listen to it. Ultimately, your goal here is to have a fixed cost and timeline, but in order to get that, you have to have all these things scoped out. And then you're gonna have a site build process that's gonna tell you what to expect. This meant, 2 weeks for site design, 4 weeks for build, 2 weeks for Q&A, et cetera. So we'll go, let's see. So here's what the formalized process looks like. And you'll walk through it. And initially you'll do discovery and research. So the team's gonna walk you through, hey, here's what you need for your site. Tell us what you want. Show us some sites that, one of the great ways to start is show me a site that does the thing you wanna do. Because it helps someone who's an expert see what your goals are and articulate it maybe in a way you can't articulate. We just built a site for someone who they're really big in archery. They sell custom archery bows. And somewhere in their scope was a line that says, archery building widget. And to them, this was just like a thing that you just think about and it shows up on a website. And it was really a $20,000, which is 150 hours worth of work, project to build a custom little application that lets you pick all the parts of an arrow, mix and match it, and then show what the arrow is gonna look like. And so by showing an e-commerce expert what your goal is, they can then say, oh, I've seen that goal before, or I know how to build that goal, and this is how many hours it takes. And then you can pretty much figure out what it's gonna cost. Then you get into the graphic design, make sure you sign it off, make sure you really take the time to see what your design is gonna look like and that it fits your needs before they start coding it. It's easy just to move that later is the beginning of a really bad experience. It's sort of like telling a general contractor, isn't it easy to move my bathroom? No, it's not. Your bathroom's right where your bathroom is because that's where the frickin' plumbing is. Making sure your integrations are well planned out, that you've got your QA on check. Ultimately, you have a training and documentation process to hand the site over from the agency to you, and then a launch sequence. So here are my final thoughts, and I'm hoping I sped up pretty fast. Yeah, we're good. Selling online is easy when you're doing 10 orders a day. But selling online is very complex and requires a lot of forethought and planning when you go to 1,000 orders a day. So my suggestion to you, regardless of which category of business you are, is take the time and think about what business you want. Think about what you're heading toward, and then come up with an educated plan to really come up with a long-term plan for the future and for growth, and pick a platform that gets you there. Wix is great if you want to see if this pithy t-shirt is going to sell. Wix is not going to turn you into a Jeff Bezos. They're not the same thing. Last slide, I think. Maybe 2 more. Yeah, so plan your business with an eye toward long-term growth, and that is actually all. Thank you.